it, you know. it, uh, it comes easier if I have to do it.
Yeah, no, it's
Somehow.
okay. It's okay. You wrote that seekers, we are serious students of Eastern wisdom. So now just see that club together. What to club together? Knowledge of Eastern wisdom. Knowledge of Eastern wisdom. Teacher explains to the students, or seekers, and the student receives the knowledge. Now, that is a common thing, but we go deeper. We go little deeper. What is that? Intellect receives the knowledge. We have an intellectual understanding, but the mind does not digest it. Why the mind does not digest it? Because the mind lives in ignorance. Mind lives in ignorance, one. So when the mind lives in ignorance, it picks up the past impressions and the thoughts and ideas instead of the knowledge is received in the intellect. So it means what it means. Very interesting. I will put it in an interesting way. First, teacher helps the seeker to marry the knowledge with the intellect. Marry the knowledge with the intellect. Right? By devotion or dedication, the seeker uses that emotion to marry the knowledge to the mind, and awakening takes place. Awakening does not take place if the mind does not marry the knowledge of the Eastern wisdom. But what is the problem? The problem is my emotion is always going for no, I have a pain, I'm suffering, my children did this thing, the society is like this, the mind is emotionally emotionally directed to these challenges of the external life. And the teacher keeps on explaining, come on, it is a subjective reality, it is not objective. Why you are caught in the objective reality? Why you are caught in the objective reality? So that makes the knowledge of the Eastern wisdom unique as compared to the Western philosophy. Did you get it? Just see, you can make a straight line. Knowledge of the Eastern wisdom, dash teacher, dash intellect, now dash past impressions, ignorance, then comes the mind, then comes the mental activity. So, what is in between? Those past impressions, habits, identifications, and attachments in the mind that prevents the mind to digest the knowledge. It has received the knowledge. Now we are real self. Oh, are you real self? But I'm suffering. so, so that causes lot of problems. And you rightly said the promise of following the Eastern wisdom is awakening and self knowledge. Or you can say permanent happiness, love, truth, and wisdom. And that is why it is taking a time, because the mind, you can think of it, you can think of your house. You have a living room, yes. You have a bedroom, yes. You have a kitchen, yes. You have a washroom, yes. Okay, you have a patio, yes. You have a front yard, yes. Now, you don't sleep in the washroom. See that? You don't cook your food in the bedroom. Why I'm saying so, this is a metaphor. So the mind as a home also has many rooms. Many rooms. They are independent and still they are interconnected. Oh, what did you say? Independent and interconnected? Oh, let us give me the example. I'm into anxiety, I have a lot of fear. And the next moment you are in peace and calmness. There are two rooms. Anxiety cannot go with the calmness. So rooms are two. But my mind, because of identification, oh, identification, it causes. So what happens? I am reacting, I have an anxiety, and now I am calm, but my anxiety impression retrieves and returns, and the whole day, oh, I have been in anxiety the whole day. Are you sure? No, we don't understand that. That is the problem of the mind. So it means that is why we say we have to purify the mind to receive the knowledge as it is. At the base of all the human activities, you have written the thoughts we have to deal with the mind. Why they are different rooms in the form of a thoughts. I'm into anxiety, but real self is of the nature of peace and happiness. I switched on, shifted myself to another room. I'm in anxiety. No, this I is of the nature of peace and happiness. I shifted. Instantly, I shifted the room. I am not cooking the food in the washroom. Crazy mind, don't do that. So so for that I need a self-awareness. The entire journey of the Eastern wisdom begins with this self-awareness. So the consequences of lack of awareness. How the lack of awareness, what happens with the lack of awareness? The mind follows these different rooms. We have a rooms of anxiety due to sun. I have a room of reaction due to my neighbor. I have a feeling of fear of the death with reference to the body because I am taking lot of there are different rooms in the mind. they pop up. What you are talking of real self? Are you talking of permanent peace and happiness? Because I have not found it, so I enter into identification, and that is what the ignorance is. So lack of thinking is the root cause. I'm into anxiety, I take for granted. Why you take for granted? So then you take for granted that the tap is flowing the water. Don't treat it. Once you switch on to the gas stove, don't close it. So after all, the intellect says, no, now is the time to close the gas stove. Now I have to find the plumber to get it fixed. So it means lack of thinking is not there. Lack of thinking, 90% of the cases, lack of thinking in the external world is not there. We use the intellect. Lack of thinking is very much prominent inside us. That is the problem. We are not talking of any religion, dogma, belief, God, etc. We are just talking of the knowledge, Eastern wisdom. You see that? Lack of thinking. I'm into anxiety. This thought pops up. But now what should I do? Why it is there? But the Master have taught me that I am of the nature of the real self, of the permanent peace and happiness. Let me see which room belongs to this anxiety. Let me leave this room and move there. It is possible. But because of strong identification, it is not possible for a non seeker. The last time you also wrote your comments why the mind is not mind has a lack of thinking. Why? Because the mind's illusory happiness. Mind says, I will have the pills to get rid of the anxiety. After all, I get the pleasure in eating pasta. Mind starts thinking negatively. It is still the lack of thinking. I'm not thinking consciously. That is why we say there should be a self awareness. This happiness is linked to the pleasure. Any outside happiness is linked to the pleasure which is short lived. Any happiness which is short lived is a projected happiness, is an imaginary happiness. An imaginary happiness puts me into the path of delusion. And when we have a delusion, delusion means what? I superimposed happiness on the pasta while eating pasta. I superimposed happiness on the car that I bought today. How long that happiness remains? For about a week, and then the car remains dirty. Oh, new cologne, new clothes, new dress, new shirt. Oh, it gives me happiness. I projected there. So our master are saying, do you discern the reality? But I have to start with I have to stop the lack of thinking. I have to start conscious thinking. And from the conscious thinking, I have to apply the discernment. Where is discernment? Let me find out what is real and what is unreal. What is unreal keeps on changing. It changes name and the form, it changes the quality, it changes the taste. That is extrinsic, incidental attributes. Real self, intrinsic nature. What is my intrinsic nature? Peace and happiness. What is the intrinsic nature of a sugar? Sweetness. Can you get rid of the sweetness? Whether you change the shape of the you make a sugar cube, you sugar powder, sugar in a pouch. Oh, everywhere it is sweet. That is intrinsic nature. And what is incidental nature? Or different forms in the shape. Cube, powder, granules. So I have to discern that. Oh, change of name and the form. No, it cannot be real. What is real is my intrinsic. That is the journey of the self-discovery. So it is basically a quest, a discovery beyond mind. But I have to go beyond mind by the mind itself. Well, no, I'm confused. No, there is no need to confuse. Mirror is clean completely, and you stand before the mirror. You see yourself. You are the same. Now you stand before the concave mirror. You stand before the concave mirror Concave mirror, you see a very small, you are limited, you are limited, you are squeezed. How you are squeezed? By the different rooms in the mind. What are those rooms? Of anxiety, of duality, of conflict, of fear, of illness, oh my goodness, of aging process. Concave mirror. I am the same, but now I see myself as limited because of those rooms are dominant in my life. Are you getting it? Now you have a convex mirror. So what happens in the convex mirror? One factor from the past impression, it may be anxiety, it may be fear, you are consumed by the fear or anxiety or aging or any sickness. I'm totally consumed by that anxiety. Means convex mirror, it makes that that problem, that delusion so big to me. I keep on thinking about it. I create many small rooms of anxiety. What are those? I go to the kitchen, I have a moment of anxiety. Oh, what I did? Oh, someone knocks the door. I create a lot of moments of anxiety. Oh, anxiety consumes me. Reaction consumes me. The fear consumes me. Now you see, now what I explained to you, I said, Eastern knowledge of the Eastern wisdom, teacher uses that for a seeker, it passes on to the intellect. You have an intellectual understanding clear. Now, another line, you have a past impressions. Those past impressions configures different rooms of your mind, and then this mind is in ignorance, and the mind, then we are suffering. I have to get rid of this concave, convex mirror and the dust on the mirror to see my real self. Look at it. I have to contemplate. I have to think. I have to think. That is the beauty of the Eastern wisdom. It gives you a step by step process, a path to the true happiness. Otherwise, Buddha used the metaphor of a mirror, understanding the distorted reality. I'm in anxiety, distorted reality. I have a fear, distorted reality. I'm aging, distorted reality. Why I'm aging, distorted? Is it not a fact? No, I'm not the body. How can it be a distorted reality? Yes, it is distorted reality because I feel I am the body, then I am 90 years old. If I'm not the body, that consciousness remains the same at the time of the birth until the last moment. So, what about the body? Why people say? Eastern wisdom says appearance of the name and the form is the birth. Disappearance of the name and the form is the death. So, why to worry? Appearance and disappearance. So there is some cause behind the appearance and disappearance, and that cause, ultimate cause, is the pure consciousness. It is the real self. It is of the nature of permanent peace, happiness, love, truth, and wisdom. It is its intrinsic nature. Again, I explained you intrinsic nature, incidental nature. Incidental nature changes the name and the form. Incidental nature is anxiety. Today I'm into anxiety, tomorrow I'm happy. Day after I have a lot of pleasure from other objects. These are incidental natures. Can I become aware of these incidental nature in my life and separate, discern it? No, no, this is not. But we have to understand how this incidental nature plays its role in our daily living. So our master says, for that you have to understand the mind as a whole, how it creates, how it creates so many rooms. Mind is home and it creates many rooms. As if we are living inside in a mansion, 40 rooms and 50 rooms. That causes the problem. Even while listening to me, your mind might have entered into other room. Oh, I had this problem. You see that? This mind, so we have to understand this mind. So we say structurally, mind is one, functionally, it is four. Mind, simple thinking, intellect, intellect, ego. Ego is a I thought in the memory in the past impressions. There are four functional aspects of mind. You have a sensation. You have a sensation. And this mind has four functions. And that sensation is linked to the memory. And that memory goes to the mind. No, that memory goes to your intellect. And the intellect relates that sensation to the anxiety. And then intellect has an I thought. I thought said, I have an anxiety. Then the mind comes and gives you those feelings. No, these feelings are anxiety. Why don't you understand? These are reaction. I'm scared. I have a lot of stress. Why don't you understand? Eastern wisdom says, why don't you understand how you have reached from a point of calmness, which is your intrinsic nature, to an incidental nature? Why you are sitting in a room which is full of those sensations and you branded them into anxiety? Why don't you drop that room? Enter into another room. After all, it is your home. Why you keep sitting in your washroom? Come on, get out. Rest in the living room. All these are different rooms. You see, this is what happens. In cases of anxiety, fears, duality, conflict, anger, reaction, greed, delusion, pride, ego. Oh, my goodness. It looks very simple, but it is a path, it is a journey. But as a seeker, when we are persistent, when we constantly move from the lack of thinking to the conscious thinking, from the conscious thinking to a contemplation and reflection, from conscious contemplation and reflection, I separate the incidental nature with my intrinsic nature. I'm free. Let me make it more clear. I said we are living in the mansion. So there are couple of rooms which are not activated, that is full of wisdom in us. We don't activate them. We take it for granted. Now I have an anxiety. Why don't you understand? Doctor says, yes, you have an anxiety. Take these pills. And the journey continues until the death. We need to polish this mirror of a life well lived. Here is a story. The metaphor is explained. Metaphor explains beautifully. So there were two painters approached the kingdom of a king. King said, you have to create my painting, my portrait. But there is one condition. If you both painters do not create a similar and identical portrait, you will be sent to the prison. Two painters, identical portrait, not possible. That is what the worldly mind says. Not possible. You also think that it is not possible. One painter has one side of creativity, other painter has one side of creativity. How can you say? I see one painter perceives the king in a one way, another painter perceives the king in that imagination, that perception is different. So one painter started painting the portrait of the king, and they were put into two rooms. In between, there was a glass partition, glass mirror partition. So on one side of a mirror on which you can see your image, one painter started creating that painting. So what the second painter did? Second painter started scratching the back surface of the mirror. Are you understanding? The mirror is no longer, it is now a transparent glass. King. Painter, did you create? Yes, here is a portrait. Second painter, here is a portrait. His work was only purifying the mind, scratching, making the mirror a transparent glass. That is our job. Do you see? I have to scratch myself. I'm into anxiety because of you. No, drop it. You are wrong. It is inside. It is one room. You have to scratch it. You have become a seeker, so I have to use those. Look at it. Now we have understood the one part of the mind. Mind is structurally one, but functionally four: mind, intellect, memory, I thought. I have a sensation. Mind goes into the memory lane. Intellect confirms, oh, that is the moment of anxiety. I thought takes over. I gets associated and attached with that sensation. And the moment I thought says I'm into anxiety, mind says, let me increase little more the intensity. Same thing with the fear. Same thing with the seeking the pleasure. So, where we are going? We are going to conclude If the conclusion is wrong, tell me. By understanding until now, we can conclude the mind has a wrong capacity to receive pleasure and pain. I have to get rid of this wrong capacity. Mind, I'm reaching to the conclusion. Mind has the wrong capacity to receive pleasure and pain. You have taken the flight and the plane has taken off and it's moving. What will happen? I will die. The neighbor, the partner on the other side of the seat says, no, keep on sitting. One is very calm and the other is hesitated. What will happen? I'm falling down. The mind has a wrong capacity to receive pain and pleasure both. Think that you have an old television set with a poor reception, constantly distorting the signals it receives from the world, creating static where there should be a clarity and a moving picture, turning even the good program into a source of frustration. Does that movie relate distorted? No. It is clear, intrinsic nature. Television set, incidental nature. Are you getting it? Movie is the same, news will be the same. What Trump says will be the same, but my television set is relaying it with distortion. I'm just thinking, what should I say? Don't say anything about Trump, otherwise you'll be caught. So,
That's why.
uh,
Oh,
so, so
I
now,
saw the.
so we have to understand in reference to the mind, what are those factors which creates a wrong capacity of the mind to receive pleasure and a pain? Why don't you mind? Why don't you show the things as it is? Why you create a problem in my life? So I have to understand those factors which develops temporarily, the wrong capacity to receive pleasure and pain in my daily life. First reason, the mind's oscillation between likes and dislikes we have developed since our childhood. That is the first factor living in the mind, in the in storehouse, and mind likes to play with that storehouse of memories of like and dislike. That that likes and dislikes of the mind is like a thermostat that is never satisfied, too hot, too cold, constantly adjusting but never finding the comfort. Uh, do you want to see the personal example? I have worked hard all my life for retirement. Okay, so you reached retirement. Now, what do I do with myself? live in stress, remember the past. Why remember the past? The house feels too quiet. The mind flipping its desire without acknowledging the contradiction. You introduced the group session to one of your friend who attended 3 or 4 sessions, I think 2 or 3 years ago. In every 5 or 6 sessions, she has only one complaint. I'm living alone, my husband died, so what should I do? I can't wait to have the house to ourselves after the kids leave. Empty nest arrives. The house feels so quiet. The mind flipping its desire without acknowledging the contradiction. I have to recognize the contradiction, likes and dislikes. The Florida, or you can say Arizona summer are perfect. So move to Arizona. Uh, it is too dry in summer. New Jersey is better, so I go back again. Likes and dislikes. That is the first factor. So it means I have to analyze and discern that likes and dislikes are incidental. Incidental means it keeps on changing. What is changing is not real. I feel I feel cold, so let me use the blanket. Calm down. That is the first factor we inherited since our birth by social conditioning, by cultural conditioning, by religious conditioning. We have developed, and those are stored in the memory in one couple of rooms in my mind home. Second factor, the mind's inconsistent judgments. It has judgment, not inviting the intellect first to discern, see every aspect. No, it has an inconsistent judgment. Mind is like a bifocal glasses, constantly shifting the focus, distorting what you see, depending on which part you are looking through. Inconsistent judgment. Think of it. Because of the inconsistent judgment, majority of the divorce cases happen. Inconsistent judgment. Why it is inconsistent? You are my soulmate. After a few months, you are my sourmate. Did you change? Did she change or he change? No, except passing on some thoughts. That's all. So how come you were the soulmate and how come you are the sourmate now? Both the partners consistently think and make inconsistent judgments. Are you understanding that? They consistently think. That is in your case, in the case of one of your son. Unwanted, unnecessary. I'm consistently thinking I cannot live with you. And I don't want to think. What I'm thinking inconsistently. But what my inconsistent thinking is very inconsistent. That is the problem. Did you understand now?
Okay, right.
And when it comes to other people, oh, you look nice, you are beautiful. Can't you say the same thing to yourself? No, now I cannot say it. So I looked at it and I said, okay, you both guys are more intelligent than the knowledge given to given by our masters of the Eastern wisdom. So I just live. Modern medicine is amazing. You read an article about the side effects. Now that word amazing is gone. I'm not inconsistent. I'm not consistent. Oh, my honey is wonderful with me. And then the Thanksgiving came, one disagreement. I always had my concern about him. That is the second factor. The then it retrieves the mind's wrong capacity to retrieve the past. I always have been a good sleeper. Very good. One bad night's sleep. I might have insomnia now. So I might have insomnia that causes the anxiety about the sleep, creating the very problem, and you have a fear. One woman who is a baby boomer has been attending my sessions, but at the same time, she was also listening to the podcast by different coaches. So when you listen to other coaches in the Western philosophy, they ask you to manage your sleep, do these thing and do that thing. And she got disturbed. She had now the disturbed sleep. She was suffering from insomnia. And it happened, she did not disclose it for 2 months. And after 2 months, she wrote me that I have a problem. This is too much, you did not tell me. And we discussed about this mind, home, and the rooms, different compartment. I said, did you understand this? She understood it, and from the day when she had a good sleep, she has no problem. Now it has been over a year. So the third factor, that I create problems because of incomplete knowledge. I just take it for granted. And then the mind's relationship problem. Also the relationship problem. Our mind is like an outdated GPS system, constantly recalculating routes but never acknowledging that it might be working with an outdated map. My adult children don't visit enough. That's fine. Then they visit, and then they just checking it that I'm still competent. They create tension. They visit less. They visit frequently. They visit less. I have a problem. People, one couple was thinking, now next year I'll be retiring, so I and my wife will have so much of time together in the retirement. I warned them, don't retire. Because in retirement, the old wounds will appear. Honey, you did to me. Honey, you did to me. I warned them. So retirement arrives, We are driving each other's crazy. Marriage was easier when we both were working, and the mind creating the problem in every life stage after the retirement, even for a cup of coffee, even for a breakfast, even for sleeping. Now the old wounds will appear. Yes, if you are a seeker, then you can heal those wounds. That is a good time for retirement. Otherwise, it is a big issue of relationship problem. We are understanding the wrong capacity of the mind to receive the pain and the pleasure. We have covered a couple of the factors, and the mind has been programmed like this by the existence of the animals. And we have the animal mind plus the intellect. The intellect can change it. Intellect has the power. Mind has a wrong capacity to receive the pain and the pleasure. Intellect has the right capacity to discern, to move to the intrinsic nature instead of living with the incidental nature. That is all about the Eastern wisdom. Intellect gives you the knowledge, but that knowledge is passed on to us by our great masters. Great masters. And that is what we are learning. Purely logical, step by step understanding. And once we understand, we simply recognize there is a cognition. You know, in modern psychotherapy, you have a CBT. So we also have the different CBT. You use the intellect, contemplate and reflect, clear the mind. And once the mind is clear, like the two painters, you have to do nothing, but you have to scratch. You have to scratch the mirror. That is the journey of the Eastern wisdom, simply explained.